Hello and welcome along to the very latest edition of Tungsten Talk here on the MODUS Super Series YouTube channel, where today myself and Paul Nicholson are joined alongside the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherrock. Great to have the pair of you here. I believe the first time you two ever met was here in Portsmouth.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
I don't know. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. We did an exhibition together with the likes of Martin Adams, Keegan Brown, Raymond van Barneveld. Yeah, we had a good time that night, and yeah, we've got to know each other pretty well since then.
Yeah, was that at the pyramids or something?
That's right, yeah.
And fast forward into 2024, you're back reunited here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. First time we've seen you actually here in 2024, the Super Series. Fallon, how would you assess the start to your year so far?
It's not been a bad year. I mean, like, I've had worse years and stuff. I think it's, starting off better, and like I said, like, there's still consistencies in my game that I'm not happy with. But then overall, I think, my finishing is probably a little bit better. But yeah, I need to kind of get into it a bit more. But I'm happy with how it is.
The start of the year was pretty good because you went to Vegas, picked up a double there in the WDS system. Now, you haven't played a great deal of that stuff over the last 18 months for reasons of invitations to other things in the PDC. What was the main motivation in going to Vegas?
Having a good time. No, take it. So me and Cammy got invited out there, and obviously, like, Leonard was like, "Oh, do you want to play pairs?" And that, so I was like, "Yeah, no worries." Like, I've never been to Vegas. I've never, been to anywhere with American darts, like WDF wise. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just go," and just I met some amazing people, had a great time, like all of that. It was just overall a really good, well-run comp.
And then you move on from there, and obviously the Women's Series begins and moves in earnest. And one thing we've seen in 2024 is the standard really from top all the way down to the middle to the bottom really, really improved. And this year it's felt like it's really got to that point.
Yeah, like the whole Women's Series has improved a lot. Like, you walk in there now and you're like dreading who you get first round, because like a few years ago you could probably get through a couple of rounds like without having to play your like A game or anything. But like now it's like they're all like on point pretty much. You get a couple of them that kind of still learning and still kind of adjusting to the Women's Series, but overall the standard is so much better.
What's the biggest difference between the Women's Series starting a few years ago and now? Because we can say legitimately that the Women's Series was started off the back of your success at Alexandra Palace. Every woman has reaped the success of that. But what's the biggest difference in the last 4 years?
I think it must be like obviously there's more interest in it, obviously, but I think it's more the opportunities that we've got now. And like, I want to say, like, the money that you could win, like a lot of us, go to work, we have kids, like, we don't have the opportunity to like pick up a lot of money and stuff. But like, you go to the Women's Series, you get through a couple of rounds, and like, even if you win like £200 for us women, that's a lot of money. And like the invitations to like the Worlds, the Grand Slam, especially the match play now, a lot of them want to try and get through to the match play. And I think that's an incentive that makes them want to be better and, play better.
And with speaking about opportunities, you've been involved in the sport now for the best part of a decade at the highest level. How would you compare where the sport is now on the women's side of the game compared to where it was when you were started out when you were 19 or 20?
Just so much more intense and better, I think, because when I started off, you had, like Trina, Lisa, Dita, who was so dominant, and Anastasia, so dominant, no one could touch them and stuff. But they weren't hitting like 90 averages consistently, but they were hitting like, high 80s. But now, like Lisa, Anna, Dita, like all them, they're all hitting like 90s because they have to, because we all have to keep up with Bo. Like, she's the one that's making us improve our game and stuff. But yeah, looking back at it like a few years back, it's totally improved, and the more interest there is now, and there's so many other people from different countries coming through now that we didn't have before.
And it feels like there's loads of different competition between the likes of yourself, the likes of Bo, the likes of Lisa to become the first to do something or break an average record or break something like that. Does that actually spur you on? And because the players at the top of the sport are doing what they're doing, the players behind have to try and catch up as a result?
I think it just inspires everyone. I think, once someone does something different or something new, it's like, oh, so we can do it. And it kind of gives like inspiration to those other women to go, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. I mean, I personally just fall on my feet. Like, I don't ask for these things to happen. It just kind of happens. So I'm like, I believe your life's set out. So
A few years ago when you beat Ted Evans at the Alexandra Palace, which is something people never bring up with you, by the way.
Never.
It was seen as a ceiling-shattering moment. The words of Rod Studd at the time were very profound. But when we look at things now, 4.5 years later, it's not really a big surprise to see a woman beat a man, is it?
No, so like I remember at the time it was like a massive thing, and like at the time like I didn't realise how big it was going to be. I don't think Makuru realised how big it was going to be, because obviously she missed that dart against James Richardson, and then since then it's like just it went mental. And like, but now because obviously the women are beating the men more often, it's not a big shock to the system, because obviously you see it in the Grand Slams now and all that. Like it's just a normal thing.
How does competitions like this actually help as well, improve the standard? We've seen obviously yourself, we've seen Lisa, we've seen Trina, Makuru, obviously Bo won a week here recently as well. How much actually playing in these competitions also help develop your game, their game, and actually develop the whole game through?
No, it definitely helps a lot, because obviously you get match practice, you get stage practice, which not a lot of people get, because obviously they don't get the opportunities to be on stage. And obviously the calibre of players that you're playing like all week, or even if you're in for the 2 days or something like that, they're all high standards. You might get an odd game that's a bit off, but then most of the time they're hitting like around about the 90 mark.
Your schedule was pretty clear at the start of the year. You went to Vegas. Going to the Women's Series, I'm sure, has taken precedent this year. What are your plans for the rest of the season? Have you already mapped everything out for the rest of the year?
I have a schedule, if that's what you mean. But my whole like thing that I'm doing this year is just obviously focusing on the Women's Series, obviously trying to get high up in that, play here as much as I can. And, you know, any other local comps and stuff, the ADC, like just try and enter and play as much as I can, because that's what I need in my game. I need the match practice rather than spending hours on the board. That doesn't work for me.
That's a really good point you've made, actually, because we saw you playing at the ADC stuff in the Northeast very recently. How did you feel about that? Because I'm sure that felt a little bit different going to something like that.
It was totally different. Like it was kind of like a challenge tour, but it was like just kind of being back in like the BDO, WDF system, where everyone's kind of starting off again. Like there's still quality players in there, and it's just giving the opportunity for everyone like lower ranked to kind of build themselves up. But yeah, no, it was a bit different to what I was used to, but I really enjoyed it. But I'm hoping to go back at the next one anyway, and just kind of, you know, keep my game there.
What would you say the goals generally are for Fallon Sherrock in 2024?
To win another game at the Worlds. That's just as blunt as that. I don't, you know, go all year to kind of try and qualify for all these events to just bomb out first round and stuff. Obviously, I want to win every game that I play. But yeah, Worlds' main thing is to like win, get through rounds. Main thing.
Do you feel a pressure to follow up at the World Championships following what happened 5 years ago?
A little bit, but like I'd never think I play bad. It's just the people I play now. I think because they realise the calibre of player I am and what I can do, they just up their game so much, and like they just take out big shots when they need to and hit the scores. And I'm like, okay, so like a few years ago when I actually did play on the stage, I think, you know, they probably underestimated a little bit, but like now no one underestimates me or anything. So it's like, oh.
Over your career, which has spanned almost half your life, you could say, if you take into consideration some of your youth stuff, you've had some, I'm going to say, perceived rivalries. Do you see them that way? Or are they just people you've got to beat? I'm talking about the likes of, you know, Ashton and Greaves and Trina and other players like that. Do you see them as rivals like that? Or are they just people that you beat the same as others?
I just see them as people that I've got to beat. Like, I don't see them as like rivals or anything like that, because it's like it's a game of darts. You can't rely on the other person missing and stuff. You literally you only rely on what you can do. No one else can change that. But I literally see it as a game. I see it as people that I've got to beat, because at the end of the day, you're sat there. There's no point worrying about it. You've got to play the game, so you might as well not stress over it and just play.
Do you begin to see a new guard beginning to emerge in the Women's Series, new winners of tournaments?
Yeah, well, you can see that this year. Like, there's been multiple different winners this year, whereas I think last year it was kind of like the same people all the time, because I'm pretty sure Bo dominated it. I won a couple, and I think Makuru won a couple. I'm not sure if Noah won one or two. Mm-hmm. But like this year, I think you're going to see more, because obviously you've still got like Robin Byrne, Kate Sheldon, like all them other people that people haven't really seen a lot of, but they're getting better and better each time.
When you look at players like Aurora Facciasato, for instance, from Italy, and she's come out and said that you're her inspiration, how does it make you feel that you've inspired someone like that?
Yeah, no, it's really good, because obviously, didn't she win like the Lakeside Youth or something? Yeah, so like the fact that a quality player like that has said, like, I'm the inspiration and stuff, it's speechless, really.
A lot of people have obviously said a lot about your career so far, but how would you describe your career, Fallon, so far?
Eventful. No, I actually can't moan about it or anything like that, because I think, you know, there's been key moments of my career that, you know, I wish could have gone better, but I just think, you know, for example, when I missed out on winning the World Championships back at Lakeside against Lisa, but that was a dominant Lisa at the time, do you know what I mean? But I think kind of I used that experience to kind of help me in the future, because I don't think if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have won the titles that I had. I don't think I would have been able to win the games at the Worlds. I wouldn't have been able to deal with the pressure situations at the Grand Slam, and still today playing all the women's series and the MODUS.
And a lot of the things that you did then led to that MBE. Do you remember where you were when you got the notification that you're going to be an MBE member?
Yeah, I was actually at the women's series in Milton Keynes. Because I remember Cammy said, oh, you've got a letter. And I was like, what letter? And he goes, a brown letter. So I'm going, oh, no, I've got a fine from my car. Because I thought, oh, no, I've got like a speeding ticket or something, like proper panicking. So then when I got home, I opened it. And then that's when I was like, oh, my God.
And then you go to Buckingham Palace to receive it. What do you remember about that day?
Just a lot of walking. Like, I never wear heels either, so my feet were really hurting. But yeah, no, it was all really well run. There was loads of people in there. I remember getting a little book and going through it all, and I was like, oh, I know that person. And I just remember the most embarrassing moment, because we were all sat in the room waiting to get called out. And I remember the bloke sitting there, like, saying what was going to happen. And I said to Jason, I was like, can you hear that? Because I couldn't hear any of it. He goes, oh, no, I can't. It's fine. Just follow the follow the people in front. I was like, okay, no worries. I was the first one there. I was like the first name that they called up. I was like, no. And I'm like, where do I go? What do I do? And everyone in this room, there's like hundreds of people in this room, and it's like looking at me. I was like, oh, and I've got this massive hat thing on that I've never wore in my life. And I'm like, oh, I thought I looked like a idiot.
Is that worse than playing at the World Championships? That
is so much worse. Like, just the whole nervous that I was, and everyone looking, and then obviously, like, I'm thinking, don't turn your back to him. Like, when obviously I was getting the MBE, and then I'm in my back of my mind, I'm going, right, remember, wait till he puts your hand out. Don't, turn your back, bow, curtsy, whatever. And I'm like, am I going to fall over? Am I not going to fall over? I was so panicking.
Who gave you the honour, incidentally?
William.
Obviously, that happened because of darts, and darts has given you the ability to travel the world with the PDC and do other things. But on a lighter note, is there something that's happened because of your success that maybe wouldn't have happened? For instance, have you met anybody as a course of your travels that maybe wouldn't have happened if you hadn't beaten Ted Everts and Mincer Sulovic?
Probably, because obviously I did a lot of like TV shows and that, a bit like how Luke's doing now, and obviously he's met all these people, and I kind of met the same people. Well, not the same, but I met like a load of the ones that I knew, and like the sporting people, and like obviously Jerry Halliwell. I don't think I'd ever thought that I'd ever meet her, and I was like, wow. So yeah, no, there's loads of people that I met, but actually pinpointing one, it's just I can't.
Back in 2019, when you were having success at Ali Pali,
yeah,
one of the things that you really wanted at the time was for Katy Perry to tweet you. Did she ever do it?
Of course she did not. Like, come on. She's like a proper, like, like a star, and I'm just like a sports person. Like, there's no way people like that interact. But I was like, it was wishful thinking.
When you saw Billie Jean King tweeted you that night, what was your first reaction? Because that's just somebody that transcends all worlds of sport, isn't she?
Yeah, no, I was like, oh my God. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I knew who she was because before, obviously, I played darts and that I did other sports. So I actually did play tennis for a little bit. So it's probably why my hand-eye coordination is not too bad. But yeah, I was like, oh my God. And I was like, Jason, like my manager, he was like, calm down. Like, I think the whole, like, where it all kicked off and all exploded. I was just like amazed by it all, and I think that's probably why some of it's still a blur at the moment, like unless I really sit there and think about it back, because it all happened so quick and in one big impact. It's just like, wow, if that makes sense. Like,
And then when you have moments like that, do you try and chase them again by getting more successes? What's it like when everything quietens down after such a hectic period that you had at that point?
nice. It's a peaceful in that, but yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like when it all happens and stuff like that, I love it, and I love the peacefulness that I get when it quietens down. But then after that kind of, you know, novelty wears off, it's like, oh, I'm bored again and I want to do something else. I kind of put myself out there again, and that's usually when something happens.
What does Fallon Sherrock do away from pressure? What's the thing that chills you out the most?
Do you mean?
Do you like to go running? Do you like to just spend time with family? What's the thing that really takes your mind off all of the pressures of Fallon Sherrock, the dart player?
I was going to say, does it look like I do running? Like, come on. To be fair, I just sit there and chill. I spend time with Rory. I literally just do stuff with him, really. Hang out with my friends, like just to take myself away from it. Because obviously darts is such a big impact on my life, like it's my job. So it's like to go away and enjoy stuff with my family and just go on days out and stuff, or even just chilling at home, put the TV on and just eating munchies. Like, I'm happy with that.
What people don't tend to realise about you is you're not just a really good steel tip player, but you're a very good soft tip player as well. You've come up against some of the best soft tip players in the world, playing in the Far East for Team UK. What were those experiences like?
No, they were really good, and I think actually learning the soft tip game, I think that probably helped a little bit more with like the accuracy and stuff, because obviously I still kind of practice the cricket now when I do practice, so I use that as my practice session a lot. But yeah, even in Las Vegas, I played steel tip, and obviously we played soft tip, but obviously we still tip darts. So I was actually like beating the Americans that play it all the time, and I was like, oh, I'm quite good at this.
And just finally, looking a little bit ahead to the future, what's the short-term and the long-term aims and plans for Fallon Sherrock, the darts player?
To be fair, short term, I'm just literally just seeing how each day goes and stuff like that. But I think long term, you know, I do want to be a world champion at some point. I don't know which one that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be in the women's game or the overall, but who knows where darts is going to be and who knows what the standard's going to end up like. But yeah, I want to be a world champion at some point. I want obviously titles, and I just want to kind of be one of them people that people don't forget about.
And I think there'll be many that'll forget about some of the famous nights that you've given us in sport. Fallon, thank you so much for joining us here on Tungsten Talk. Paul, thank you as ever. That's the latest edition of Tungsten Talk with the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherrock, MBE.